Hey, we've got plenty of tips to help you keep organized in the garden, and it's all coming up right after this. I'm Alan Smith. Welcome to the show. I don't know about you, but I don't really consider myself a neat person, although I love to go into a neat space. Have you ever walked into your tool shed and gone, gosh, I'm lost in here, I don't know where anything is? Well, that has happened to me a lot, and I have learned that if I put the right tool back in the right place, that it makes things so much easier and so much more enjoyable in the garden. So today we're going to talk about some of those little tips and ideas that I've come across over the years that helps keep me organized in the tool shed. Now we'll also visit a blueberry farm in northwest Arkansas. If you love blueberries as much as I do, you're going to love this place. Plus we're going to check out a few new additions at the Garden Home Retreat and make the days in the garden just a little less hectic. And then we're going to sink our teeth into a delicious recipe. All of this and much more right after the break. When you put in a garden, you've got to have all the right tools, plus you've got to have the proper amendments for the soil. Now, before we head off to that blueberry farm, I want to give you a little tip about growing blueberries. Most of the garden that you'll plant, meaning the vegetables and so forth, require a slightly alkaline soil. I'm talking about soil pH here, which means you typically put some lime down. When we did our big vegetable garden, we put down lots of lime. But I saved an area dedicated to blueberries where I keep the soil more acidic. So you want the soil pH to be very low. So let's head off to that farm in Mountainburg, Arkansas, where they grow massive amounts of blueberries every year. Gary Simmons, co-owner of Simmons Plant Farm, tells us more about his blueberry farm and how you can grow some of your own.
This field here is approximately 8 years old. I expect to get at least 15 to 20 years out of it. Each bush usually produces about 5 gallons per bush. This particular variety here is a mid-season variety. It's called Blue Ray. Usually comes on in the first week in June and lasts till probably the first week in July. This cluster of berries here, it's pollinated by bees and bumblebees. And there's usually from 8 to 14 berries in each cluster. The best tasting berries are the ones that are real dark blue. We usually pick these every 4 days, and that gives them time to ripen up and get a better flavor. Some of the problems we have are the Japanese beetles, birds, and deer. We really don't do anything to stop the beetles and the birds, the deer from eating our berries. The only way to stop the beetles would be to spray, and we don't want to do that. We had 2-year-old plants. If you have a home garden, the best thing to do would be to dig a hole, put about a gallon of peat moss underneath your plant. You need to mulch it. It's going to have at least an inch of water a week. Blueberries are pretty slow growers. It'll take about 3 years before you're able to start producing, quite a bit of fruit. After they produce fruit, then all you have to do is just more or less maintain the bush by trimming the dead wood out. You may want to thin them some so you can get larger berries. My dad taught me that years and years ago in this family operation, that to be successful, you're going to have water to keep your plants growing. You never want a blueberry plant to wilt or to dry out because it's too late to bring it back then. If you maintain them, keep them well watered, keep them well pruned, you should be able to have blueberry plants for 20 years.
Now after the break, we'll get some useful organizational tips and take a bite into this delicious recipe, so stay with us.
Oh my heavens.
If you're like me, one of your favorite elements of design in the garden is color. In a few minutes, we're going to talk about one of my favorite cool weather annual flowers. But first, I want to talk about the tool shed at the Garden Home Retreat, because without that shed and all the things that I have in it, it would be very difficult for me to have all those gorgeous flowers that you see out there in the flower borders. You see, the tool shed is relatively small. It's only 10 by 14 feet, but it's enough room for me to hang all kinds of dried flowers, keep the tools in order, have cabinets and tables, and also a shelf to stack up all the containers and fertilizers and so forth that it takes to grow a beautiful garden. One of the things that I've learned is by taking the tools and applying them to the wall, just by being able to hang them on a nail and then drawing with chalk around the edge where that tool goes, it's a reminder of, hey, you need to put that tool back. And then if you look a little closer, you'll find that I use mason jars to use for clips and staples and nails, as well as a spice rack where I can hold matches and nails and screws and things that you're going to need for stringing up things in the garden, so it all stays in a certain place. And I even used an old wire potato basket to use as a way to roll up the hose over in the corner. I just can't tell you how satisfying it is to have a tidy workshop and tool shed before you begin the gardening season. Now, one of my favorite plants to plant early on in February and March is a little flower from South Africa called the Cape daisy. It's also called an Osteospermum. This particular variety is called Lemon Symphony. Matt Mart from Euro-American in California tells us more about this beautiful little flower.
In this container over here, we have Osteospermum Lemon Symphony. This is a fantastic plant. You can see how it beautifully trails down in this container. In this case, it's combined with a Superbell's calibrachoa and with Nemesia bluebird, also an outstanding plant. But the Symphony is really one of the greatest success stories in the garden. This Osteospermum was bred in Japan many years ago and brought here to North America for the gardeners to enjoy. In earlier days, Osteospermum stopped flowering as soon as it got warm, but with the Symphonies, that doesn't happen. Whether it's as a trailer in this container, in a mixed basket, or in a mass planting. It is so versatile. It'll make it anywhere and survive anywhere. It can go through the summer, and it's just a tireless workhorse in the garden. It's a fantastic plant. As you can see, the flowers will not bleach. They'll keep their color, and it's a beautiful contrast between the nice appealing yellow flower and the blue eye. And everybody has loved it so far, and it's one of the most popular plants here in North America.
After the break, I want to show you some new equipment in my garden that will make my life a little easier, plus this delicious recipe, so don't go anywhere. I have to say, I've been a fan of Superbell's calibrachoa for a long time. The flowers of the yellow chiffon calibrachoa have an amazing creamy yellow color that can blend well with cool palettes. It also works with warm palettes. Yellow chiffon has a trailing habit with healthy foliage and tons of small blooms. Superbells attract hummingbirds and butterflies, and we consider them pet-friendly around the farm. Recently, my friend Kent Hall with Steel Power Tools came out to the farm and showed me the new Combi system. Wow, what a way for me to stay on task and make life in the garden easier. Well, you know, of all of the steel products that we use, I have to say that all of them get used across the board by the guys that work here, but I guess the Combi is probably my favorite. I like the fact that it's lightweight, and there are a couple of the attachments that I'm drawn to. I really love to get out in my garden and run the cultivator. That's a lot of fun.
It's great. The Combi concept is the fastest growing product group within the outdoor power equipment industry. In fact, for steel, we have a variety of attachments, but the advantage to the person that's using that type of product, the Combi system is great because you now have just one engine or one motor that drives a variety of attachments.
Right, so you can start with the motor, and then you can collect all the attachments.
Right.
And how many attachments are there? There are numerous.
Oh, there's numerous ones. There's attachments for trimming grass, for edging, for trimming hedges, for pruning trees, for cultivating around in flower beds and gardens. And it's a budget saver. Now you can only buy one motor and then choose all the various attachments to meet your need, which saves on maintenance. Now you don't have to worry about maintaining a variety of engines.
You know, I'm one of these guys, I want to go out, I want to do it, and I don't want to have problems with the engine not starting or the equipment not working.
Exactly, exactly.
One of the reasons I like the Combi is that, as you noticed when we were in our tour, we have the beds laid out in a pattern, and they're all raised beds. And so the little Combi is perfect. I can run it up and down the rows, I'm ready to replant.
Exactly, exactly. The cultivator is a fantastic tool.
Yeah, so it's really good for the raised bed garden or even a larger garden.
For sure, yeah.
The garden home retreat is really laid out in a series of rooms, and we have a lot of hedges that help us create those rooms. With all of the hedges that we've planted, the trimmer really helps.
It does, and then for those hedges, once they get even mature, because some of these hedges you've planted, I see, are still within a couple of 3 years of their growth pattern, so they're going to get much higher. Well,
Right.
with the Combi system, you can buy an extension for that to even reach higher to get those more mature hedges.
Yeah, and the thing that I think that helps with that particular attachment is that the whole system is lightweight.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're holding it up and you're trying to prune the top of an 8-foot hedge, you're not wearing your arms out.
And I'm sure you've noticed already with the Combi system that it's not that difficult to change the attachments. You know, that simple coupling system
Right.
makes it easy.
Just line it up and apply some pressure and you're there.
One of the new Combi motors we have has an easy to start feature. So the pulling force that's required to start the engine is much less.
These start so easily, it's really quite impressive.
It's phenomenal. Hey, I see that the rain stopped. Can we continue our tour now?
Yeah, let's get back out there.
Fantastic.
All right, now it's time to take a look at some viewer questions. I've got one from Jennifer, and she asks, Alan, I'm just getting into gardening, and I want to stock my tool shed. I don't have a ton of money to spend, but what are the essential tools I should have if I want to put in a few flower beds? Well, it's a very good question, Jennifer, and I pulled some tools together to help illustrate what I believe would be a good basic set of tools for you to have. Now, before we get into digging tools, let's just talk a moment about pruning tools. I think you need a good pair of clippers, all right? You get into growing roses or you've got some beautiful flowering shrubs, you'll need some of these. And you'll also need a pair of shears for shearing hedges. So if you have boxwoods or hollies, things like that, you'll want to keep them clipped with shears. And you can get a lot of great exercise by using these in the garden. Now let's talk a moment about creating a garden or a flower bed. Start with a sharp point shovel. Now get one that's really strong because you're going to put a lot of weight and torque on this when you use it. This is good for skimming off turf, for creating your flower bed, and then digging down and turning the soil. Once you've done that, you'll want to get a good fork like this. Then you can turn the soil as you begin to integrate a lot of amendments like some good rich humus. Once you've done that, you'll need an iron tooth rake like this one. And you can rake out the clumps, you can rake out roots, and you can get it all nice and level. And then I love this tool. This is a little Warren hoe. It's great for weeding, but what I like about it is I can actually take this little point and drag it along the furrow that I've created in my vegetable garden and drop the seed in there and come back and cover it up. So a little Warren hoe comes in very handy. Jennifer, I hope some of these tips are helpful to you, and good luck with your garden. And after the break, this delicious recipe, so don't go anywhere.
You taste
I
it?
do.
I love this on enchiladas.
good.
Isn't it good?
Welcome to the kitchen. I'm here with my friend Cappy. It's the dog days of summer, but one of the most delightful vegetables that comes out of the garden is corn, and Cappy is preparing corn on the cob, Mexican style. Now, is this peaches and cream?
This is peaches and cream, a bicolor corn, and I like to steam it. I would never boil corn because that just destroys the flavor. Or you could grill it.
Yeah.
And if you grill it, you can simply soak this in water so the husk won't burn.
Yeah.
And tie it with some kitchen twine, throw it on the grill, and then you've got a little nifty handle.
Oh, look at that. Now let's go back to why you don't boil it. Is it because it reduces the flavor, the intensity of the flavor?
Completely. The kernels are so tender, it absorbs the water.
Yeah.
So if you don't introduce water to the corn and just simply steam or grill, you get the full flavor. of the kernel.
Excellent. You know, I think that the best time to eat sweet corn is as soon as it comes off the stalk. The longer it lies about after harvesting, it tends to go from that sweet milk to starch.
Definitely. But I hope you grow some corn next year.
Well, I know, you know, when we took a walk through the garden, I do miss seeing the corn. We really need more space to really grow corn properly, but I'm certainly intrigued by the idea.
Well, The steaming is so easy. It's only going to take 5 to 7 minutes. And you could do this earlier in the day and then just heat it up in the steam basket.
Oh, I see. That's good, particularly if you're having guests.
Exactly. Definitely plan on 2 ears per person
It's that
because
good.
it is that good. I usually don't tell people what's in it because it sounds weird, mayonnaise and corn. But that's the traditional way to make it. So easy. Take the corn.
Okay.
Steam it while it's still warm.
Okay.
Slather it with the mayonnaise.
Look at that.
And then we're going to sprinkle it with the cotija cheese. And the mayonnaise will help it adhere. And just roll it around. And then sprinkle it with a little bit of cayenne pepper. It's going to really contrast nicely with the sweetness of the corn. And then a squeeze of fresh lime.
Okay.
And you got to try this.
How beautiful. Look at that. Oh my heavens.
I told you.
What a way to have corn.
Isn't it great?
Oh, it's fabulous. Now I want to ask one question about the amount of cheese that one should have on hand to do. Let's say you're going to do a dozen ears, you're having 6 people over.
A couple of cups of
Couple
corn.
of cups, all right.
Maybe a cup or so of mayonnaise.
Dozen ears of corn.
About 3 limes and your cayenne pepper. And that little tanginess from the lemon and the mayonnaise with the cheese and the lime and the
No, I was going to say the lime will really set it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kathy, thank you so much for sharing this
Thank
recipe
you, Alan.
with us.
Thank you.
Well, do give this a try. Now, one last tip. When you're selecting tools for your garden, what I like to do is go for quality, something that's going to last a long time. I've had this trowel for almost 10 years, and it's held up beautifully. It's made of quality materials. It costs a little more, but I've gotten a lot of use out of it. This one, on the other hand, you can tell is very flimsy. It's just not going to hold up. Even though it costs less, it's not going to hang around in my garden very long. Now, any of the information that you've seen in today's show, you can always go to my website, pallansmith.com, and pick it up with lots of other information. Until next time, from the garden, I'm Alan Smith.
In this garden I dream of a bed of flowers. Bluebirds sing of the beauty all around us. And every time the sun comes out, I can't help but smile. Oh, no, I can't help but smile.